I'm about to try and do something that should not be possible. Set a sub 1 minute lap time but with the slowest car possible on the entirety of the F1 25 game. No, this is not a realistic Alpine but a My Team car which does not have a single upgrade applied to it, which you can see here. The only upgrades this car have are from the engine supplier and there's nothing that I could do about that, so it's time to go and light up the Mexico City circuit. And here we go. This is my very first lap of Q1 and my aim for this session is to get within 2.5 seconds of the sub 1 minute lap time, which I believed could happen because it's fair to say that I've done a lot of sub 1 minute lap time challenges around this track. But back to this first lap, and it was actually pretty good. I was driving on medium tyres to save my softs for my best laps, and I was driving really well considering how little grip I had. I ended up finishing this lap exactly 4.3 seconds away from the overall goal, and I was about to get straight back on it because, as you can see, after a cool down lap we're coming into the final set of corners only half a tenth in the red. But this time I was just able to carry way more speed through this sector, and by being much closer to the limit I managed to gain an absolutely massive 9.4 tenths of a second. And this was the end of my laps on the medium tyres, and I was now just under 3.4 seconds away from the overall goal. And do you know what the best news about this is? Just getting onto the soft tyres alone is going to gain me at least 8.5 tenths of a second. And to be fair, for my first soft Q1 lap I had a poor start because coming into the second set of corners I was already 1.5 tenths down. But after being even more committed than the previous lap and getting lucky with my bounce off the wall, I managed to get over the grass way quicker than I had on the previous lap, and I was now just over 3 tenths up. And I managed to maintain this all the way to the finish line where I was now just outside 3 seconds of the sub 1 minute lap time. And I'm not going to waste your time, my penultimate lap in Q1 was very average, but by getting a better bounce off the final corner wall I managed to gain another 1.5 tenths of a second. But that was nothing compared to what was about to come up next. And that is because I'd planned out this final Q1 lap absolutely perfectly. As you can see, I'm gaining so much time from slipstreaming Nico Hulkenberg down the main straight, and without changing anything I was already 1.5 tenths in the green. And next up was the lawnmower section where I managed to just keep gaining time. This was fantastic as by picking up even more of a slipstream from Isaac Hadjar I was now 3.5 tenths up. This was huge and I had to hold on to this. However, I managed to do even more than that because after cutting the double right hander so much more than I had on the previous laps, I was now hovering around 8 to 9 tenths in the green. I would maintain this until the stadium section, and I needed this to be good. And that is exactly what it was. Although I did lose a little bit of time by slightly overcommitting to the actual entrance to the stadium, I managed to still gain a huge 6.5 tenths on this lap. And I had now got myself within 2.2 seconds of the sub 1 minute lap time. I had smashed my Q1 goal by 3 tenths of a second, and I was so ready to get into Q2. So I won't waste your time, and my first Q2 lap was just a banker where I was just about over a second away from my PB on a used set of soft tyres. This meant that I now knew exactly how much I had to gain on this lap to make some permanent progress. And it didn't take me long to get into the rhythm with some fresh tyres, as coming into the second set of corners I was only marginally down to the delta, but after carrying crazy high minimum speed through this section I managed to gain so much time. And I was already over the delta that I needed to make some proper progress. Everything else now is just a bonus. And my run from the exit of the double right-hander to the stadium section was fantastic because by maintaining higher minimum speed I'd managed to rise all the way to 1.67 seconds in the green. Next up was the stadium, and I knew that with fresh tyres progress was guaranteed, and that is exactly what happened. With more grip I was able to hold a much higher minimum speed, and after this I managed to bring myself to 1.9 seconds up, but more importantly just outside 1.3 seconds away from the overall goal. And for a lap in Q2 this was absolutely huge. Sadly though I would not make any more progress in Q2 as my final lap was just shocking, but if you would have told me that I was going to be just over 1.3 seconds away from the sub 1 minute lap time in Q2 I would have absolutely taken that. By the way, just a quick point, my banker lap for Q3 was 1.15 seconds off my personal best, but I may or may not have forgotten to record it. But to be honest, this second lap wasn't exactly great either because it was quite literally only worth 0.02 of a second, but progress is progress and now the delta was properly updated. So because of that it's now time for my final Q3 lap in this first attempt, and it started fantastically. I managed to pick up a slipstream all the way down the main straight, and after this I had a very good set of first corners. I was now a quarter of a second in the green, and I definitely did not have to use a flashback there. Moving on, it's now time for the second set of turns, and although my run was superb through here, I wish I just had an off-board shot for this unbelievable drift through the double right-hander. That was very cool, but unfortunately it was the only cool thing left in that lap, because as we speed up to the end of this final Q3 run, I'd lost almost all of my progress. This was just so frustrating, and from this lap I only gained 7/100ths of a second, so it's now time to go and rerun some Q3 sessions. And in my next Q3 final lap I needed to gain over 1.4 seconds to make some actual progress, and it was looking good so far, because coming into the final sector I was already a second in the green. And it is now time for that final sector, and I was absolutely flying through here because the grip that I had was just exceptional, and I just kept gaining time. Into the final corner I was 1.35 seconds up, and after a fantastic exit I gained 2.5 of a second. For the first time in this challenge I was now under 1.1 seconds away from the overall goal, but nothing could prepare me for the unbelievable lap that I was about to drive. Here we go. If I want to make some real progress on this lap I need to gain at least 2.4 seconds, and it started off with a bang because after an excellent first sector I was already 9/10ths up, and I had a huge opportunity to gain even more time in the middle sector. Going through the second set of corners I managed to keep the car stable through the double right-hander, which may not look as cool as a drift, but for sure it is faster. And I was now going to be gaining time all the way up to the stadium section, which will speed up to, as I was now 1.9 seconds in the green. Just a reminder that anything above 2.4 seconds is an overall improvement, and that came when I managed to absolutely fly at the perfect angle out of the final corner, and I basically bounced straight on towards the finish line. This lap brought me just outside 6/10ths away from the sub 1 minute lap time, which was brilliant, but I felt like I just had one really big issue. I had peaked. I mean, I was never beating that lap time, and going through and setting banker laps was really messing with my momentum, so it's time to go and use good old reliable. As you can see, I've now just simulated a complete season of my team, and of course we have no upgrades or anything, but this time I'm going to just cycle through one-shot qualies for momentum, and this worked out unbelievably well. Oh my word, that final sector was so clutch, and also, to be fair, pretty lucky. I had broken the sub 1 minute lap time challenge by 74,000ths of a second with the slowest car I believe is possible in F1 25, and honestly, that could not have been much closer. Thank you all so much for watching, please subscribe, and I will see you all next week.